Today we're going to try to find a break in the underground pet fence wire. My wife and I went to visit some family and came back at the end of the week, and the unit was beeping, telling us there was a break in the wire. So now we've got to do the task of finding the break in the wire. Things that you'll need is a little bit of extra boundary wire, some type of metal stake. I'm using this cheap Harbor Freight tent stake, and a tone tool. So let's get started. This is my petsafe boundary controller, and normally you would see the power LED on and the loop LED on. Right now I have it unplugged, but you'll see what happens and why it says that the loop is no longer continuous. When I plug it up, it tests the loop and immediately says that the loop is no longer continuous and beeps like crazy. So it's unplugged, and let's figure out how to find the break. Alright, the first thing we need to do is to make a ground wire for the tone tool. Most of the tone tools will recommend that you connect one side to a ground and the other side to a wire. You don't want to connect to both sides of the loop wire because you won't be able to tell exactly where the break is. You want to connect to only one side, and the other side goes to a ground. So how we're going to do that, we're just going to strip off a pretty good section of wire here using our Harbor Freight stake. We're going to take this and just wrap it around here quite a few times really well. I'm going to put a little clip on it just to help hold it in place. Maybe not. Maybe that'll work. Just to make sure it gets a good solid connection on there. And the next thing, we need to pound it in the ground. So let's go over and do that. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is pour a little water on there to make sure that it's making good contact with the ground. Okay, let's connect up our tools. This is the tone tool that we're going to be using. And let me explain to you how it works. The tone generator has a high and a low setting. We're going to start with a high setting, and if we need to, we can reduce it. You just push the button once, and I don't know if you can see that out here, but the green light under high is blinking. And what the tone tool amplifier probe does is when it gets near the wire, it makes a noise. Our problem is that the wire is actually in the ground, and I don't want to bend over the whole half acre or whatever that I need to walk, so I need to figure out a way to keep this button pressed in the whole time. So the first thing we need to do is to connect the tone generator to the ground wire. This is the ground wire that we just put in the ground and soaked over there, so let's expose a little bit of it, connect our alligator clip on there. This wire goes to the loop underground. We'll connect the red wire here. Lay it over out of the way. I'm going to actually lay the hammer on top of that so it won't move around. And let's test with our probe. See, it works fine. We should be able to find the line as it comes out from the garage. Follow it along. All the way around the house. Okay, so using the small cable locator did not work at all. Couldn't even detect it once it was a ½ inch underground, so it is clearly not powerful enough to use for this purpose. So I got out my bigger unit. This one uses RF and can transmit at varying levels and should be much more appropriate for this job. Basically, it plugs in the same way. You have the transmitter. This side is connected to the ground, the black is connected to the ground, and the red is connected to one leg of the loop that we're trying to diagnose. This is the probe that we'll be walking around with, and hopefully today I'm going to show you a really neat trick. In computer science, it's called a binary search, or you can think of it as a half interval search. If you know about where your cable is located, you can cut a ton of time out, and you don't need to do like others suggest and actually walk the perimeter. What you can do is you can actually go to the halfway point, test if you know about where the wire is. If you have signal, you know everything up to that point is good. So then you cut that in half again, and you just do that until you spend a lot less time finding the actual fault. So here's how ours goes. It comes from out of the house. You can see there's a little yellow cable down here. It's buried into the ground and it's twisted so that it doesn't cause the dog's collars to alert until it gets to this brown mound right here. There it splits and it goes, one leg goes out towards the backyard. We're going to do that one second. And the other direction it goes is between our house and the neighbor's house and loops around to the front. In this particular case, I know that the cable goes between the 2 yards and goes across the driveway, and I know exactly where the driveway crosses. So we'll actually start there. I'll show you a picture right here where you can see what the house actually looks like from overhead and kind of give you a better idea of what we're talking about. But first thing we'll do is we'll turn on the probe and we will walk to the driveway. And if it works at the driveway, we know that all of this area works. So we don't have to actually worry about testing all that and trying to exactly follow the line. So how does it work? First thing we'll do is we will turn on the unit and we will tell it to start transmitting. This unit actually has different levels. We're on level 1, so we want lowest power. Code doesn't really matter unless you're using multiple ones of these, so we'll just leave it on the standard code F. And then we will turn on our probe. The probe starts in automatic. I tend to prefer manual mode, and about 5 or 6 clicks up. Okay. Go over here and we press start, and you'll see that it's transmitting, and we should be able to so what's happening here is this unit, when it detects the signal, it gives you a higher pitch when you're right over it, and the further away you are, it's kind of like playing that kid's game hotter. So when you're right over it, but it does lag just a little bit. And just to show you an example, here where it's buried, you can see that it's actually detecting it. So let's walk over to the front of the house. First place I want to test, I'm going to actually turn the sensitivity up just a hair. And we know that it crosses the driveway right here. So if we have signal there, we know everything up to this point is good. And the reason I want to check here is I have accidentally cut it with a weed eater before, so it's a good place to check. The cable actually goes in this little crack. You can see it works. So we know that works. Now I know that it goes around the sagos and down towards the neighbor's house. So let's just walk over towards the backyard, skip all this section. And the way this works is if we walk over here and we don't detect signal, we know it's between the driveway and here. But if we do, we know everything up to this point is good. So we know the cable's good here. So let's go on around back. In the backyard. Yes, I know my post needs work. So let's just pick, it runs between our fence and the neighbor's fence. Let me turn the pool pump off so you can hear me a little better. All right. So let's just check a little section here along the fence. So we know that works. Let's pick another section back here. Oh, that's interesting. No signal, and I know for a fact that it goes between the neighbor's fence and my fence. So let's back up a little bit. Okay, so we have signal right here, but we don't have signal right here. That is very interesting. Okay, so that probably means the break is someplace right in here. So let's go do another test. What we'll do is we'll swap the legs, because like I mentioned, you may have multiple breaks. Let's swap the legs and test the other direction and see how that goes. Okay, here we are behind the house. The cable runs along down by the pond and comes out over here. This section I probably will have to do a little bit of tracing because I don't know exactly where it goes, but I do know, if you can see right here, I have an old golf club. I know that is approximately where the wire comes out, so we can start there and we should have signal, and we do. You can see, hear that? So in this case I'm going to have to follow it because I don't know exactly where this cable goes. Okay, so we know it goes in here someplace, and this is directly behind the fence. So let's do this. Let's go back in the backyard and see if we pick it up. That'll help us confirm where the break is. Okay, so if it's just a simple break, we should be able to pick it up right at the edge of the fence here. But my suspicions are that we won't. And I'll explain why here in just a second. And we are not picking the signal up. So what that means to me is there is a significant break between here and there. And the reason I suspected that is I just noticed that there is a orange or pink ribbon on our post. That means somebody's been in there, a surveyor perhaps, when the neighbors bought the house next door, and I bet somebody has tripped over that wire and pulled it loose. So what's happened is it's come disconnected up here and been pulled back into this direction. So since that's a little bit snaky looking, I'm going to put on some long pants and some rubber boots and let's go exploring. Okay, I have on some jeans and some boots, and here are the tools that we're going to need to try to repair this break. We have our tone tool, we have it set up, we have it transmitting, we need a little bit of extra wire, we need a pair of clips, we'll obviously need our tone finder, and probably most importantly our Drycon connectors. These are silicone filled wire nuts so that they will be impervious to the weather. Probably only need 2, but I always bring 3 because I don't want to climb back out of there in case I drop one or I end up making a wrong cut. So let's go see if we can find and fix this brake. Okay, here we are over in the area where we found the cable last time, and it kind of goes right through this section. Let me turn the sensitivity up just a hair. And instead of trying to traipse through all that, there's a little path over here. So let's go around this clump of trees and see what we can find. See if our cable is out here laying free somewhere. Yeah, I don't see it yet. I'm gonna get over here closer to the fence. Yuck, spider webs. Okay, I found it. It was exactly as I suspected. We're on the back side of the house where the pink ribbon was tied, and there was a hole dug right at the end of that post, and look what I found. Ta-da! So that means that it was cut probably when they dug this hole. So now I gotta climb back out. We'll do a repair on this end. I'll toss the cable back down that way a good ways, back down here, and we'll see if we can get her working again. Okay, just to prove to you that this is the good end. So there is connectivity here, so that's good. So we'll turn our meter off and we will commence to repairing. It's not too hard. Basically, there's a couple of pretty good kinks here, so I'm going to just cut those off. And then I'm going to strip a section of it with my pliers. Just like that. It's not very corroded, so it's in good shape. So let me get the remainder of my wire here. I just noticed that my spool of wire actually has a repair in the middle of it. Excuse me. So I'm going to cut that off and not use that section. Because I don't know how far down the fence line I'm going to have to go. So cut that off. I'll set this on the ground. Okay. So the proper way to do this is we'll take these 2 cables. Excuse me. We're going to tie a knot in them as a strain relief. Just like this. And then we're going to take these 2 sections. Excuse me. A bunch of dust back here. Trim them off to be the same length. Twist them together a little bit. And then we'll take our connector. We'll put it on there and we'll twist it down really good. Make sure that it's good and tight. Okay. And we have our extension. Let's test it here. Turn our tester back on, set it back to manual. You should see this whole cable length is now lit up. So, we'll turn you off, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to toss this. Unwind a little bit of cable here, and I'm going to toss it as far back through there as I can get so that I can work on it on the other side. Let's see how far we can get it. I'm no sportsman, so don't laugh. Not too shabby. Ended up right there. Okay, now I'm going to climb out of here and see if we can affect the other side of the repair. Okay, we have the wire between the two fences. Let's find a section where we know that it works. Okay, so it works there. At least works right here. So let's dig that wire out from right here and connect it to that wire over there. Okay, let's get to digging around and see if we can find it. About the best I can do. So I'm going to put it right here. Create a section of wire here. Make sure that I have more than enough. Because I'm going to try to pull the repair back to right there. Next thing I want to do is make sure that the wire that we have here is in fact still connected. So let's test it real quick. And it is. So let's hook them up. We'll do this about like we did the other. Sorry for bumping the camera there. Take them, tie a knot. That will act as a strain relief in case something gets caught on it. Even those two up. These two copper wires, twist them together good. Take one of our waterproof dry cons. It's good and solid. And then bury him back in the dirt. Just like that. Should be fixed. Let's go and try hooking the unit back up. I thought we would try one other thing to see if our repair should work. The 16 gauge wire read online is about 3 ohms resistance per 100 feet. So we should be in the low, gosh, I don't know, 1,500 to 2,000 feet. So we should be someplace in the probably 9 to 12 ohm range for the length of wire that I used. So let's find out. I've got it connected on here with my meter. I'm using clips because it's so hard with low resistance to hold it steady that it wavers all over the place. I'm hoping that using the clips will make it a little more steady. So let's take our meter, And let's turn it over to ohms and see what it says. 9.9 ohms. Can you see that? That is, or 10 ohms. That is right in the ballpark that I was hoping it would be. So let's try connecting it up and see if the unit shows that the loop is continuous. Okay, let's see what happens when I plug the power in. It's connected back into the controller. Let's plug the power in and see if the loop light stays lit. And it does! Woohoo! We have repaired our invisible fence using computer science. One thing I will add is that you should always connect this to one of the grounding units. I don't know if you can see this, but I have one back here that's plugged into, and I will hook that up here in just a minute. Basically, the loop goes into it, and then it goes into your controller, and because this giant loop acts like a huge antenna, lightning strikes can induce current in the loop that can destroy your controller. I have had that happen in the past after a thunderstorm. So I bought one of these, but just for testing purposes, I want to eliminate it from the circuit, and I will be hooking it up shortly. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, leave me a comment or a like and subscribe, and let me know what you think. Thank you.